then we'll go to board member comments. Commissioner Wojciechowski.
Well, in regards to the planning committee and their discussion on the green light, which is also an advisory committee to this board, we fully endorsed it. There was some discussion. Later on this agenda, we'll be talking about the financial plan and the analysis as well as our accountability plan. And there was some discussion as to chicken or the egg, which comes first. Knowing that it really kind of goes together. So our discussion, while we fully endorsed it, it is the vision. It's not all the details. It's the vision of where we want to go. And that the financial feasibility plan, you know, we're talking good comments about folks running out of money. You know, we're going to do this financial analysis. We're going to be looking at future dollars instead of today's dollars. We're going to be examining all of those things because those things have happened. And so we felt confident that supporting the vision at this moment was the right thing to do in order to do the proper financial analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Merz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I have some trepidation. And since we're endorsing the plan, I feel it's important at this point to bring this up. In general, the vision, as I understand Green Light Pinellas, is to engage us in a conversation in the future of Pinellas County, to learn more about the future of transportation in Pinellas County, and provide us the opportunity to voice needs and concerns. I think that's excellent. I think that the overall vision is appropriate, and it's a good conversation. I've had some concerns over the past number of months of making sure that we get good representation in our meetings and our charrettes and things, that it's not just basically planners or members of the chamber or groups that have a vested interest in it, that you would get people that are the non-involved but the voters, to get those into the picture. We've had some discussions, and over the last few weeks, actually a few months, I've mentioned that we're going to have Mr. Miller come to Safety Harbor and make a presentation. So I have, over 2 commission meetings, got the word out to our constituents that this meeting would be coming. We had it published on our website. Our city manager got the information out to the surrounding communities of Oldsmar and Tarpon Springs. Again, Mr. Miller came to our commission meeting last week and made a presentation. We had it advertised in town, we had it advertised at our library, which is very active. Monday we had the meeting and 1 person showed up. There were some issues as to whether or not we could find it properly on the PSTA and Green Light Pinellas website announced. But aside from that, Safety Harbor is a community that if there is an issue that is at hand, we are not afraid to talk about it. The fact that nobody showed up, basically, 1 person, gives me concern that we are even missing the vision, missing the people when we're making our discussions. These are the people that are going to come and vote. So we had that Monday. Yesterday, of course, we had the lens. People are making the decision. I want to make sure that how can we make sure that the word is getting out to the right people, to the people that are actually going to make the vote, that are going to make the difference. And to me, it fits into the vision. I don't know where, but this seems to be as good a place as any to discuss it. I have had lots of thought over the last couple of days trying to figure out where we needed to make improvements. We'll get with Mr. Miller and PSTA staff and maybe try to do it again February or something. Maybe we're too far out. You know, we'll have to try to make some decisions to see if there's some areas of improvement. But that being said, one of the areas that I see, and when I'm talking to people, is the people that ride the bus support the bus. for various reasons. I've had a lot of input into it. There's a lot of people that don't support the bus or don't ride it. So my concern is, if you're going to raise a penny, maybe some of the issues that need to be discussed is, where is support for those that aren't going to run the bus? Why would they want to do this? Why would they get involved in this? And if you look at the penny for Pinellas, it covers the entire county. Projects are spread all over the place, so you can see a benefit from it. Maybe, and I haven't seen it. I've seen a number of the Green on Pinellas presentations, but I haven't seen anything as to a real drive as to the economics of why it's important, how it's going to help our community in the future, why businesses will want to come, new businesses need to come in to create infrastructure, to keep the roads good, to keep everything going. Maybe there needs to be some tie-in to what the rest of the people would get out of it. So maybe like, and this kind of falls into the technical team issue here, maybe we need to require that 20% of the buses or 20% of the rail is manufactured here. Maybe we need to tie that into such that we can say that the money that's being spent is going to stay here. It's going to cause jobs. It's going to provide for opportunities for good technologies to be here, support our economic development in other ways that will keep businesses here, not just perhaps short-term construction, but long-term high-tech industries, various things. And maybe in that capacity, the discussions can say there's buses, there's mass transit, there's benefits in various areas, but there's also going to be some of that money staying in here to develop and to continue and to support businesses so our families, our kids can have good paying jobs, we can have good paying jobs with benefits and things like that. So to me, I've been trying to think about why nobody's there. There could be other reasons, but talking to the people who are going to make this vote, if you're not a bus supporter or you don't ride the bus, why do you want to tax yourself? And maybe there's some benefit that could also be supported and brought into the picture. And, we have, I'm a research faculty member at USF, PhDs in engineering. I know we have the capability to do that work here. So if we're going to have economic development, we're going to work with the county commission, we're going to work with various people, we're going to try to keep industrial here and try to keep various things here. Why not try to tie a big project like this to make sure that some of that money stays here? Or it's just a thought, but trying to talk with people that come back and say, what's in it for me? To me, that's a link that perhaps could be made. And that would play into what the technical vision would be. If certain costs are going to be here, then this effort, which is going to be being worked on, might have to change a little bit because some of the businesses will have to be here. But to me, that seems like a potentially natural opportunity to bring work in, keep it here, good paying jobs, good wages, good benefits, and provide for a return to the community in addition to the benefits that you get from the buses and such. So it's just a thought, and I figured you ought to be aware of at least what happened on Monday, and this is as good a time as any to discuss it. So thank you.
And I think you bring up a couple of good points, and the first one was on getting people to the meetings where PSTA or Green Lake can notice the whole county. But I think it's incumbent on us, given we have 24 different municipalities and the county and then all these different groups, as to more specifically how you reach people. And I saw this with DOT and the MPO would hold a meeting on Wednesday night at St. Pete High, and not realize that the Council of Neighborhoods was meeting the same night 4 blocks away, and there's 75 people there, and then they wondered why there's only one at the DOT meeting instead of getting on the agenda for the Kona meeting. And it's just knowing that, and I think it's up to us to make sure that Brad and whoever's out there giving that message knows more specifically where we could get that message. And again, the other point is, what is that message? That is definitely going to be different in Safety Harbor than it is on the beaches or in Largo or in St. Petersburg or it's a business community. And again, I think it's up to us, up to the business leaders, up to the civic group to let the speakers, let Brad know that the green light panel know what message will resonate. What do the people want here about economics, about the economy, about environment, so that those things can be addressed in the short time of those meetings, because, you know, it's an 1,800-page plan. What specifically do those people want to hear? And we need to hear from this board and from our community leaders as we go out, because there is no one message and there is no one messenger. And that is going to be the challenge, that to make sure everyone understands what's in it for them and how they'll benefit and how it ties into the bigger regional plan.
If I could just a quick follow-up, you know, even if Brad was able to hit 25 people 5 nights a week, you know, that's still 500 people a month. There's only 14 months to go. That's only 6,000 people, right? So there's what, several 100,000 people that are going to vote. So how do you get that word out appropriately? And that's an impressive thing to be able to hit 5 places a week. So how do you, and possibly, yes. So the reality is to get the word out, and you know, the buttons and the signs and the web page is fine, but as we're moving ahead and you know, these are lessons learned, trying to put these pieces together to maximize what we can do to get that word out, to make sure that you are making an informed decision, one way or the other, but it's an informed decision.
Commissioner Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions. On this resolution, I think the inconsistency, Mr. Marshall, I think you're correct, General, about that. The inconsistency is the bigger challenge, is the biggest challenge in the message itself on many levels, besides yours, so I agree with that. Under section 3, under land use, it says encourage and advance, where possible, transit support concepts and local comprehension land use, planning, timeline, visioning, et cetera, specifically through collaborative efforts of Pinellas, Planning Council County, City of Federal Largo, Pinellas Park, and St. Petersburg. My question is where are the other 20 cities in this discussion?
So those were the communities that were involved with the land use planning effort that we did with the MPO around the station area plans, because those were the stations. Those are the municipalities that the stations are at.
Well, that I think speaks to, in part, to what, some degree anyway, what Mr. Mertz is saying. I think this is something that is countywide. Countywide needs to be involved when we select certain cities, regardless of region. I'm not charging anything here, but we're missing a message here. I'm not in favor of approving visions based on assumptions. And that's concerning to me, because we have spent millions upon millions upon billions, it's not exaggeration, of tax dollars on multiple plans and studies. And we're still at a point where we're at an assumption with a vision. And I think we should be far beyond that at this point, so I don't support approving something that we're still not clear on. It's pretty important going forward. After all these investments and tax dollars that have been made in this entire discussion, that we know what we're talking about. And I don't feel that comfort level that we do. We've made multiple promises on every different level, telling different groups different things. That, in my opinion, is the problem. We're trying to match the crowd instead of gaining support for the entire concept. We're looking for selective events. We promised rail, we promised bus, we promised trails. Even promised about a pothole program based again on financial assumptions. We shouldn't be hiring any more consultants. We shouldn't need any more consultants at this point after multiple millions of tax dollars have been spent already on this. Yet I still don't see anything solid other than we're still working on it. So I don't think if you approve by resolution, symbolic or otherwise, something based on assumptions that are going to change, by the way. You'll remember, one of the big assumptions in this was utilizing the rail to transport people to the race stadiums to help that. And there's assumptions and figures in that. And at the same time, if you're paying attention to what's going on, some folks want to get rid of the race. So if you get rid of the raise, widen the rail, and the assumptions change, and the data changes, I still stand very firm belief that on everything that's been promised, this financial plan does not provide enough money to do this job. So it's for those reasons I won't support. And it's a different perspective on the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rice?
Yes, I had the opportunity to be the co-convener on the Green Light Civic Committee. It wasn't a lone effort. It was with also with Stacy Blake and John Ewing and a lot of help from our very capable staff. And I'm just speaking from the civic group perspective. I thought we did a very good job reaching out to the community. We held 3 community meetings. We had 3 more structured discussions that took place at the Pinellas Realtor's office. And then we had our final meeting on August 22nd. And I think we really, after many discussions, different ways of presenting information, we held presentations, we had discussions in large groups, we had discussions in small groups. There was a good back and forth. It wasn't just dominated by one organization. There was a good cross-section of people there that brought different ideas, perspectives, and thoughts about the future of transit. We had some pushback. We had questions. I mean, it was some really spirited discussions. And we landed the plane. I think we really got to a point on August 22nd where people, the whole group, felt very comfortable with the Green Light Pinellas concept and moving forward. And one of the things that I thought was such a great sign was that after the meeting was completed, people stayed. There was a lot of energy. People stayed and kept talking because people were excited and they felt like they were listened to. And I thought it was a really positive observation about the process. So, I mean, specifically some of the things that our group got into and what we talked to at length was about specifically how does a tax swap work? What does it mean economically? What does it mean for different groups of people? What does it mean for how our region can attract jobs? Not just the jobs created for constructing rail, but what does a better mass transit system mean for the future of how we attract jobs here, period? What does it mean for improved service? What does it mean for sustainability, clean air? What does it mean for transit-oriented development? And then we got into discussions of what exactly transit-oriented development is. So I think we got into a lot of meaningful discussions and engagement about what are the trade-offs and is the investment in mass transit and Green Light Pinellas worth it. And I know that from taking the temperature of the civic committee that the answer was a resounding yes, that it is worth it, and we do need to go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Long?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I just have a couple of comments that I'd like to make, specifically in regard to Mr. Mertz's ideas and thoughts that he had. I do like the part of his questioning about can't we find a way to keep some of the money here and, you know, promote jobs and make it a real economic boom for our county. I think that's very important. But to some of the other things that he said, I would just like to lean on my experience a little bit in terms of, and I think we all who have been on the ballot can relate, it just is so difficult at best to educate an entire community about a candidate, about an issue, about any subject matter. Because for the most part, we're all very busy people leading our lives and going to work and taking care of our kids or parents or whatever our responsibilities are. And I do think that there is a role that each one of us plays within our own circles of influence to be constantly, every single day from now until November 2014, talking about this initiative. Because if you look back at the history of our country, and even our own area right here in Tampa Bay, I venture to say there were a lot of naysayers when the railroads were built going out west. But that is what made America great, that it gave us the opportunity to connect with each other, one coast to the other. And if we could think back maybe 50 or 60 years ago, there were probably an awful lot of people who said, we don't need Tampa International Airport. I'll never fly anywhere. I don't want it. I don't want to pay for it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I venture to say that today there aren't too many of us that would want to see Tampa International go away. And same with any great infrastructure in our whole entire country or right here in Pinellas. I mean, it was about leadership then, and it's about leadership now. Because it's not just for the people that are here today that we are moving or trying to move this initiative forward. It's about the health and the economy and the ability to keep our region vibrant and thriving and bustling and robust for the next generation and generations to come. So for all of those reasons, I think, you know, people will take personal responsibility to educate themselves and vote for this initiative. And there are always going to be those people that won't go and vote, regardless of how much you try to educate them. Because in reality, maybe they just don't care and it's not important enough. We see that in every election cycle. And we all talk about, oh my goodness, whatever happened to civic responsibility? Well, I think we all have a role to keep on talking about that, because it will never get better if we don't.
Thank you. Commissioner Wells.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the interest of brevity, I'll just echo Commissioner Long and Commissioner Rice. We just spent a little bit of time at the County Commission talking about local impact, and I really like that point about trying to keep more of those dollars here. I also think it's important that we go to where people are. A Kona meeting, a Rotary Club meeting, and I'm thinking back to the Penny for Pinellas effort. You know, we actually went to where those meetings were. It's hard to get folks to come to a meeting just for, and I'm thinking back to the county budget. We actually had our county budget meeting at Safety Harbor City Hall 2 years ago, wasn't it, Susan? And we got maybe one person that wasn't a city staffer. So it's just hard to get folks there for a single purpose meeting. But I think if you go where folks are, I know we had Brad come to the Economic Development Council, and those business folks were pretty much unanimously in support. And the question was, why isn't this coming to Seminole and other places? I also think it's important that we talk about, whenever I talk about it, rail is the third thing I talk about. First thing is bringing our bus system up to where it should be. That's the first thing I talk about. And second is the economic development. The 3,000 jobs a year, the transit-oriented development, those things, really everybody in the county is going to benefit from. So I'm happy with where we are. I think we've got the right message. I think it's been a good process. I really like what you had to say about trying to have more of a local impact on those investment dollars. But I fully support where we are now, and I'll support the motion that's on the list.
Thank you. Councilman Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I too will support the motion. I made the motion. I can tell you that as board members, we are advocates for transportation in Pinellas County. That's why we sit up here. That's why I thought I sat up here. And we all have busy lives. We all have elected responsibilities as well as different committees and boards that we sit on, and subcommittees, and on and on and on. But I try to stay connected through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, my office number, people have my cell number, they have my personal email. And I answer any call anytime. My office is Wally World or Walmart. I mean, and I carry tons of cards. I try to answer any question I can as pertains to transportation with anybody approaching. As to us not being able to fund something or having a perfect message because it's a plan that's evolving, I can only tell you that try and communicate to your constituency the effect of not having the revenue if this referendum item is not successful. Try to tell them about how you're going to gut the bus system so people won't get to work. A lot of people depend on that bus to get to that beach to make up those beds for those tourists to put their heads in. You know about bed tax, heads and beds. They can't get to work. How are they going to find staff to get out there and make up those beds and so they'll be able to rent it out? And I wonder what economic impact that's going to have on those areas. Also, look at the amount of people who are dependent on it. This is the only way they get around. They have no transportation. You know, try to send that message out. I mean, if you don't want to talk about green light, talk about that. So you got something to talk about either way. But we have a responsibility, I think, or I have a responsibility to make sure at least they know about it. And what I love most about this process, unlike what just happened over in St. Pete, we went 2 years of telling people how great things are going to be and what they should do and what we're going to do, and we know what's best for them. But ultimately, when the people had an opportunity to vote and weigh in the democratic process, they let their wishes be known. So that's what I love about this the most. It will culminate in a vote. As to the people that saying what's in it for me, you know, I was at a Tampa Regional Planning meeting, and a lady that was in the audience, she was with the county, I think it was. She grabbed me and she said, I never heard this before. She says, I'm all for the tax for schools. She said, I don't have any kids. And I said, wow, I never heard that. She said, no, let me tell you why. She said, see, I want them to go to school. I want them to get a real good job so they can work and pay Social Security when I retire. I never heard it that way. But I can tell you aesthetically, this tax swap is going to be great for the coastal communities, I call them, which currently don't have bus service because they don't participate in the Avalon process that we have. This penny will reach all over, just like penny from that Fort Pinellas. Everyone that pays into it should have service, and that's the question I've been bringing up all along. I mean, so it's going to solve problems that we currently have. As to the buses going into the airports, I would challenge my colleagues to get out to some of these National League of Cities meetings. You know, go to Boston, go to Phoenix, where I just came from. We got off the plane onto a bus that went into a tunnel that stopped at a hotel and took us everywhere. We didn't rent a car or have to worry about getting around the whole while we was there. And when we left the hotel, the bus took us right back to the rail took us back to the bus terminal where we got on it. Wow. My wife and I were amazed. So, you know, I mean, you can do it or you can not do it, but ultimately the people will get to weigh in the democratic process. I think the dialogue and discussion is great, but everybody will get a vote. If you don't like it, don't vote.
Mr. Wazowski.
Thank you. One of the things I think that we just heard was some concern about not having the full plan. And, you know, I'm just looking at our work plan, our 2013 work plan and calendar of this entire process. And one of the things that I have really liked that I find as a government person that's different about this process is that what we've done is we take things step by step by step. Now, there has just been a complaint about that. But I've also been a part of plans where I've been handed a book this thick and been expected in 2 weeks to digest it and decide whether to go forward or not. And that's not what's happening here. Every step has required an approval of process. And there's a reason. So that we're all on board with every assumption, with every piece of it, so that we continue to build until the final piece of the plan is complete. That keeps everybody informed, everybody discussing, and everybody up here as well as those watching sees how did we get to our conclusion. The approval of this vision or concept is in order to then go to the outside financial analysis. And yes, it is an outside consultant. And there's a reason for that. We want an unbiased look in future dollars of what this plan actually costs compared to the assumptions we've assumed and compare the numbers. And it says right here on our calendar that the final green light plan will come before PSTA on November 20th. That's never changed. We've always done things step by step. So that's why we don't have a final plan, because we've planned to make these approvals intermittently. And I think that's important to say, because we're not being given an incomplete plan. we're being given a part of the plan that we're saying we have buy-in. And I think that's just really important, and I think that's the best way to go through this process. We all agree. And then when that green light plan comes back in November, all the different organizations are going to see it well before it goes to the Board of County Commissioners. So this is just a vision. It was never meant to be a full plan, and I am totally supportive.
Thank you. Mr. Lavalla.
Thank you, and everything that I wanted to say has already been said, very eloquently, but for the most part. But I do support the plan. I support the plan at this point. We have many more decisions to make as we move forward before November of next year, and staff and everyone involved in this is doing exactly what was proposed, and I think we should all feel good about that and proud of how the process is working. It is a little frustrating that if the average citizen is not as excited about this as we are, but I think as we get closer to November 14, just like in any election, people become aware of what's on the ballot and they go, I better keep with this ballot, I better decide how I'm going to vote. But as I speak to people about this, the first thing I say is that it's a tax swap. That gets their attention. That really gets their attention, to realize that there's a line on their tax bill that will go away. And then, based on how much you spend on those things other than the necessities of life, which are not taxed, determines how much you would pay for this. And people get that. But I strongly support moving forward with this, and I really, we should stop and congratulate staff and thank them for the hard work. While this is going on, we have to keep the buses on the road and the system that we have operating. And that's not easy, I'm sure. Everybody's working long hours towards this vision, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. First question I have is, some colleague was looking at the work plan, and they were looking at the coordination, and in September, October, there's a review by the MPO, the PPC, and Florida, and asked a question of, is FDOT included in that review? I know they've been participating in some of this, but it was a question that I couldn't say, yes, I guess specifically been coordinated. So, are they involved in this approval?
Yes, they have been specifically coordinating, and we're specifically trying to get some additional meetings with leadership within the district office to ensure that we're copacetic.
Wonderful, wonderful. I had some comments I was going to make a little later in the meeting, but this is everybody sharing, and I think it's appropriate to bring it forward now. I have been attending some of the green light analysis events around the county. For instance, I went to the Clearwater East Library on Saturday, and I sat through a green light presentation that was given in Spanish to members of our Hispanic community. I didn't know it would be in Spanish. But it was clear to me that those who attended had a sincere interest in improving their lives through better and additional transit options. I also attended the East Lake Library, I think it was the North Council of Neighborhoods meeting up at the East Lake Library the previous Monday, and listened to folks in that part of the county. And some of them didn't really think about public transit until they started seeing the PSTA North County connector buses going through their area. And so that was a beginning of an awareness for a lot of people. Also, they were especially interested in the potential tax swap of property taxes for sales taxes, Lappo mentioned. But at the same time, I think generally the people I talked to were concerned, had a concern for the folks in other parts of the county, other than where they live, that depend on public transit and recognition that what we have isn't really an acceptable level for the county, even though they aren't in a part of the county that likely would use that. I also observed, did not participate in the Green Light Civic Committee last Thursday, and I thought there was a lot of good conversations with a lot of questions. I was a little surprised that this was their third meeting and they still had considerable depth of discussion. And perhaps that is indicative of what Councilmember Burt says about getting the information out to a larger group. And that is one of my concerns, in that I'm impatient because there's a whole number of people that I talk to that really don't have a clue about green light. And yes, we're getting out there, but I think we have a big job ahead of us, as many of us have said. The website doesn't have the documents like available on it now, like the new revenue community bus plan. We have to go into the agenda items. I know that's on the list of doing that. The website didn't highlight that briefing was going to be in Spanish. And I think it's a positive that we are reaching out to in other languages. And I think we should also have a very easily understood summary of our financial business plan. That's one of the items that's in the financial consultant document. I'd like to have us have a easily understood standalone document that talks about the delivery plan that will be talked about later in this meeting. And I'd like to know more about what our plans are for outreach into next year. The chart that we have in front of us ends at the end of this year. If this is going to be approved by the voters in November of 2014, I really want it to be a big win. A big win will be a clear mandate for us to draw funding to the project from the state and federal, and it will enable us to accelerate the implementation. And for years I've heard our youth and seniors say how difficult it is to get around the county without a car. For years I've heard from people that when they lived in Cleveland or wherever other city, that they have better transportation, public transportation. And in recent years I've been hearing more and more from employers that tell stories about the younger, technologically oriented employees who want to live in denser, walkable, transit-supported communities, which this will help. Based on the comments from the performance review that we're going to talk about later, I may have a little different perception than others on the board, or some others on the board, and I share my comments because I think there are opportunities to improve our process, project execution, which I think I'm hearing some interest in that as well. I think this is a vision. It's an incremental step. It's not the final step. And I fully support the resolution that we have in front of us.
Thank you. Commissioner Barclay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let some of my associates know that we also have a little bit of a responsibility with regard to getting the word out on the Green Light Pinellas program. I have tried to get Brad in front of a couple of groups, and I have several more lined up, groups in the 75 to 100 range, that were very enthusiastically in support of this project. And I think as they in turn tell friends, and they in turn tell friends, that we will see a lot more dissemination of the positive aspects of this organization and the plan that we have set forward here. And I again want to reiterate what Commissioner Laval said, that this is in fact not a tax that we're adding on is simply an exchange of one tax for another, and it's very important that people not view this as in effect, new tax. Lastly, I just want to say that I'm very much in support of the plan, and I will be supporting.
Thank you. Before we go into a second round, I want to make a few comments myself, because I do think this is important that we take this step today. We always get in that situation of how much detail do you give the public. If we go out and say, here's where the bus is going to be, it's going to be an 87-space parking garage on the south side of the road with blue tile in the bathroom, people say, why are you even asking us? You've already made the plan. If you go out there and say, what do you want to do? They say, I don't know, you're the transit people, you tell us. So you have to find that balance. And I think the staff and our partners with DOT and the MPO and the Planning Council have pulled together enough data to answer the questions and to get the input. And everyone up here knows that the maps have changed as a result of that, that our consultants give us a framework, and then we go out to the public, we listen to the board, we listen to our partners, and things change. I also think it's important to make sure that the right, honest information gets out there. And I don't know of anyone, I only speak for myself, that I've never made a promise as to what this plan is going to deliver. I've spoken with the Ray's ownership and never promised them to put transit in their station, and this plan contemplates this transit system servicing all our large development areas. The site where the Trop sits on will be redeveloped in the next 15, 20, 30 years with or without a stadium. Gateway area will be redeveloped in the next few years with or without a stadium. We know those things, and we're putting the transit and planning it to those based on those assumptions, which I think are pretty solid, that the redevelopment of this community is going to hit those areas, which are very few as to where large tract redevelopment can occur. And I do think the other thing is, too, what you hear, whether the people agree with you or disagree with you, when you're out there, they thank you for getting them the information. And again, it's getting it to the right place. I've got a meeting, and I've been watching, I wasn't even involved, but watching the emails from Brad and the president of my association, when's the best time, where's the best place, now let's include the next neighborhood, and the next one. Now it's up to 4. So you'll probably have well over 100 people in that meeting next week, just because we're responding to them, their schedules, where they need to hear these things, what's the most convenient for them. So I do think it's important that we leave this plan with its variables, and leave some options open, listen to the public, and the promise we should make is that we will listen, and this will change as a result of those things. And even once we adopt the final plan, things will change. As you get into the environmental impact studies, and you get into the land acquisition, and you get into the details of engineering and the challenges with making whatever system you have through our road system, things will change, things will be modified. There will never be a final plan. I know that from being on the planning commission, I know from being a contractor, the only thing that's consistent is the plans change. So I do think it's important to make this step forward and support this today. With that, you got Vice Mayor Mertz.
Well, I want to thank everyone. This was an excellent discussion. I appreciate that. I'm sure the residents and everybody out that's watching today appreciate it as well. I just want to say that I opened it indicating that I was supportive of the green light. I am supportive of the vision. I think it's excellent. What we've talked about is obviously the importance of getting the word out, how complicated it is, and what we need to do to make that happen. And those kind of discussions need to be done, and I'm very happy to see that. And I also was happy to hear of perhaps a couple of interested parties as well with being able to figure out ways to bring the money back into the community. So I have no issue, and I would plan to vote in favor of the vision. The financial analysis, though, I probably will vote against, because I would like to hear more about this bringing the money back in. And if it turns out later the money will be spent on this, which then would have to be perhaps modified and be spent at another time. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, but that's a different point. But again, I appreciate the conversation and all the discussions. I think it's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had some quick comments and cautions, and I think it's important going forward that we are careful not to label individuals who disagree with us as anti or radical county commission has any authority whatsoever to make that happen. This is the existence of this board, the existence of that ad valorem tax, a legislative action, and would require a change by virtue of legislation. No one on this board, no one on Greenlight Pinellas, no one again on the county commission has the authority to make that change. This was attempted last year, it failed in the legislature, and I see no indication that the legislature is willing to make that change this year. In that vein, however, Mr. Chairman, it might be appropriate before we go forward and make these claims that you put something to the legislature and get something back from them in writing that would validate such a claim. To go forward and tell folks that this is a tax law indicating any way, shape, or form that that's a done deal, it would be disingenuous. I think it's inappropriate for anyone to do it. However, if the legislative delegation body is going to stand here and say we intend to pass it next year, then have that claim. I would certainly support that concept. I won't support innuendos that are not backed up purely by facts, as is my nature with this. It's insulting. It is a nice good thing. It's involved. It's something we should do. Let's get the real crust of it. But I, again, may stand alone, but I'm highly caution on using the term tax law claim. There's no authority to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your time.
And that triggered a few more comments. Mr. Scott.
Thank you,
I
Chairman.
think that needs to be clarified, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, Mr. Roche, you are correct that the state, the attempt that PSTA voted for and that failed in the state legislature would have eliminated PSTA's ability to levy the property tax. And that was one way to eliminate the property tax. There is a proposed alternative way that we're pursuing, that there will come to you as a county commissioner and ultimately the PSTA board. This will be done locally, that the property tax will be eliminated by way of an interlocal agreement between PSTA and the county. So if the sales tax passed, or the concept of this, and this is not on your agenda, you're going to see it, and you're going to see it in your committees, and we're going to talk about it ad nauseam. So, but the concept of the interlocal agreement is that if the sales tax is passed, the money is collected by the state, passed through to the county. The county then passes it on to PSTA. If some future PSTA board were ever to levy a property tax, because you're correct, the state power to levy a property tax by PSTA would still exist until the state eliminates it. But the agreement says that if a future PSTA board were to levy a property tax, for every dollar of property tax that PSTA levies, the county will hold back an equal dollar of sales tax. So PSTA wouldn't get it. And that will be done by this interlocal agreement locally. And at least that's the concept. And so Alan Zivin, our legal counsel, has drafted that. We've had some discussions with the county attorney about that. And then I know that you will be seeing that here at PSTA and at the county commission to review that before December. So that's how we're planning to ensure that the property tax does go away, even though the state didn't do what we did.
And further clarification, it did pass through the legislation by an overwhelming majority of the House and the Senate and was vetoed by the governor. Okay, I might want to be mindful of our time. We have a few more questions. Councilman Newton?
Well, you get called Scott first before.
I'm sorry, Scott.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I do support the vision. It has been developed with a tremendous amount of transparency. I guess the concern that I have is I want to make sure that that transparency continues going forward with the Greenlight Pinellas initiative. In viewing the website here just a few minutes ago, there's opportunities to post community stories. I didn't really see an opportunity to necessarily post a comment, at least not easily. Maybe it's there, I just couldn't find it. But there is another viewpoint out there that doesn't necessarily support it or agree with it. And even if we don't like that comment or the viewpoint, matter of fact, especially if we don't, they should still have the opportunity to post their thoughts for it. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Newton?
Yes, I just wanted to also let my colleagues know why the legislator wasn't, or the governor actually vetoed the order, but the legislator did approve additional monies to further pursue the expansion and possible merger of transportation. So while if they think that might not be the spirit in the legislature, they are making moves toward making the transportation more connected throughout this region. Also, I wanted to offer to Mr. Cliff, one of my board members, you might look at, or this board might look at entertaining something that the city council just did at our last meeting. We passed construction maintenance incentive program, which pays the contractors quicker for hiring the hard to hire and keeping a lot of the stuff local. You got to understand that we will be approving the contracts and let the money, the jobs and all that. While we don't build rails and stuff here, it'd be nice if we did, if we could load them in. We also have some ability to incentivize the people we deal with to employ people right here locally in Pinellas County, and thus keeping the money in the area, flipping it 7 or 8 times before it leaves the area. So there's huge economic impact and opportunity in that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.